Hello, I'm joined today by my guest, Philip Farrell from Offr. Hello, Philip. How are you doing?
Hi, good afternoon, David. Good to talk to you.
Good to have you with us. Philip, the world is changing a little bit, and in terms of the work that we as agents have got to do, we find ourselves covered in a deluge of offers very often. And every agency has their own way of dealing with offers, particularly when you've got multiple bits of interest on a property. And it's how they handle it. So some people say, look, we're going to go to best and finals. We've got a particular process where we need you to provide proof of funding, your solicitor's details. We want to know how this transaction is being funded. And all of this is predicated on the fact that we want as much information as possible so that we as agents can then pass that on to our clients, the vendors. We sometimes, though, fail to forget that an essential part of this is also the buyer experience in all of this. Because we all have different ways of handling offers, it would make beautiful sense to sort of have a universal solution that really allows us to get an offer in and manage those offers properly, but also to kind of standardize that process. That's where Offr comes in. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my own experience in the industry, I've been an agent for 25, 30 years. And when I finished up in mainstream industry, I was mentally exhausted at the whole process of buying and selling, and that it's a negative experience for all parties. And anyone that tells you any different is wrong, or I won't call them liars. But ultimately, from an agent's perspective, from a buyer, from a seller,
it's stressful, isn't it?
Yeah. It's stressful, it's archaic, it's paper-based, it's outdated. And ultimately, what's happened is technology has been moving along at its pace, and our industry, as in the property industry, has been running along at a more reduced pace. But ultimately, what I see happening now is the consumer will determine where the transaction is going, in the sense that technology is bringing it to a point. It's happened in all other sectors. You look at travel, you look at retail, you look at banking. I used the analogy 10 years ago, if I owe you £50, if I borrow £50 from you, it would take 2 to 5 working days for it to get through to your bank account. Now it takes 2 to 5 working seconds, for, not literally, but you understand what I mean. So I think ultimately what's happening is that the reason property has not happened until now is that it's such a more technical and lengthy process. But however, ultimately the consumer, generally speaking, the buyer, we're in the era of instant gratification. They want to be able to place an offer. We did a survey recently on Offr. So what we do is we deliver a button that sits on an estate agent's website. So if you can imagine, you have a set of property details on an estate agent's website. They're losing most of their traffic at the moment, the portals. The website is their shop window, especially those who are now not on the high street. And what we do is we deliver a button that sits on top of the property details and facilitates buyers to come in, to register, upload proof of ID, proof of funds as requested by the agent. The agent can approve them to buy. They can place their offers in a secure environment. What we're finding is that we're already very active in other countries as well as the UK, as in the US, South Africa and Ireland, where we started. And ultimately, what the buyers love about this is that it's greater transparency. They believe, like we all know, the perception rules the roost. And the perception out there is that there are a lot more fake bids than there actually are. And the amount of times that buyers have stepped away from a transaction because they lose confidence or trust in what's going on. If you, as the agent, can keep them in the transaction for longer, therefore you're likely to secure a higher price for your client, who is the seller or vendor. So what we found with buyers is that they love this idea, in the sense when they place an offer, when they've been approved to bid and they place an offer, that they know they've had to go through the exact same process as anyone else who has bid on the property. And that gives them great comfort. And also what you find too is that historically in the industry, you have offers coming in by text, by phone, verbally, by email, by WhatsApp, etc. And this allows all the offers to come in through the one channel.
So that's superb. And what I love about it is it does seem to sort of, it jumps on that whole buy it now culture that we have. So we used to going onto Amazon, onto eBay, onto anything basically online.
Instant gratification, yeah.
Seeing something that we want, being able to click on it. And I suppose you're giving those purchasers that experience in a managed solution on an estate agent's website.
Absolutely, and I think ultimately, as I said earlier, will be driven by the consumer, and I have no doubt in 5 years' time that 80% of all transactions in the UK will be conducted digitally through estate agents' websites, all managed, not removing the agent. The agent is key from a hand-holding, valuing, negotiating, managing, but all of the delays that take place in the traditional sale are as a result of poor communication and excessive administration. What this does is it digitizes all of that aspect of it and allows the agent to do what they do best. Something else too, which is really important from the agent's perspective, touched on earlier that a lot of agents are losing their, when I say losing their high street premises, it just has become too expensive because up to 30% of their annual turnover in many cases is simply for rent, and it just doesn't stack up. And I believe the future is about the agile agent. I'm not saying that the main street or high street agent will be removed, but ultimately, from the agent's perspective, they have to be able to work remotely. What this does, it makes and this is key for estate agents, and they need to, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, that they need to understand this, it makes their site far more sticky. In other words, that people stay on their website for longer because, and remember, this button is not, it's a white label button, so it's in the agent's own colors also, so it complements the website. Yeah. And so from that perspective, people now come on and will keep coming back to the website because they're transacting or interested in a product, and they can also watch the usual YouTube videos, etc., and arrange viewings if that's what they so require.
So this is really ready to be weaponized in the standard kind of private treaty scenarios that agents advertise on their website. How, from a user's point of view, from an agent's point of view, if I came to you today and said, Philip, this sounds amazing, I want the edge, I want to be able to present this to because I think it's a USB, you can present this as well to your clients when you're out valuing a property, to be able to say to them, not only is our website cutting edge, but also that you can actually make offers directly from the website, and we will start that process of verifying who your buyer is, checking the fact that they've got their funds in place. As a vendor, that's music to my ears. That's what I want to hear.
And so something else that's important, which I haven't touched on, is that all vendors have their own dashboard, and they can now go in, they have their own login to Offr. They can go in and see the amount of viewings that have taken place, the amount of offers that have taken, the conditions attaching to those offers, etc., etc. So from that perspective, the seller, very often sellers feel too removed from the transaction. It's their property. They now feel closer to the transaction. And also there's that call now, it's not happening in the market that we're in at the moment, but we all know the call that we all hate to make is to a seller or a vendor to reduce their price. In this instance, if a seller has their own dashboard and can see what's going on, they're expecting that call. There's no surprise when that call comes from me. Yeah. So from that perspective, it's very beneficial to it.
So it's great for the management of offers, but also for the management of expectations. It's superb. So if I was an agent looking to sort of integrate this, how quickly and how complicated is it to sort of get on the go?
Yeah. What we do is we appoint one of our team as the account manager. We're acutely aware that, and I use this analogy, the best estate agent in the UK is potentially the worst tech person in the UK. And I mean that with respect. Their expertise is in property and buying and selling. Yeah. So what we do is when people come in first, we handhold them through the first 2 or 3 transactions to make sure they're totally comfortable with the whole process. We also have we've an open excuse me, frog in my throat.
No problem.
We have an open API, so we can integrate with all the leading CRMs as well, which reduces duplication and double entry. And so if somebody wants to set up, it literally can be set up in minutes. All we do is, apart from the training piece, which we will give you, and any amount of contact that you want and interaction, all it is we insert one line of code through your web host, and now the button is on that property, and it literally takes minutes. And we're happy for people to come in and try it out for free. Come in and see, and because the old adage, the proof of the pudding, I firmly believe that we have something very, very unique here. We were very careful in that there's lots of tech out there that was developed by really good tech guys who don't get property.
Yeah.
But we in property are a different beast. And I'm including myself in that. So myself and co-founder and CEO, Robert Hogan, are both 50 years in the industry, and we have a brilliant CTO as well, who's pure tech. And we've been very conscious because I know what it's like on the ground for the agent. And as true as we're talking at the moment, you and I touched on this previously, that, you know, this is a seller's market. It's very hot. Before we know it, and I'm not being negative here, but before we know it, this market's going to turn.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're going to crash, et cetera, but it's, you know, it's a roller coaster, it's swings and roundabouts, and it will turn, and it will and agents will need to look at, to differentiate themselves and give themselves that, when they go to that, as I call it, that beauty parade, where they have to go out and value, et cetera, properties and trying to secure the sale. They need to differentiate themselves. What this does is this gives you an added advantage to your competitor in saying, look, I'm bringing you as a seller close to the transaction, and as a buyer, I'm keeping you more informed. One other feature which I didn't touch on and is of great benefit to the agents is, once an agent uses Offr for all of the items that take place during the transaction, whether it be somebody watches a video, whether it be somebody makes an appointment, whether it be somebody, because it facilitates all of that as well. There is a full activity log, which is date and time stamped. So forevermore. And so, for example, in Ireland, there's full regulation in the sector. In the UK, it's coming in too. Now somebody is fully, everything is, no more recording of offers. It's all date and time stamped on the system. You just export it.
Hugely important. I mean, we in the UK, we still have a duty to report offers, I think, within 24 hours of them being received. But if you, I don't know, if you're away from the office, or you're short-staffed, or if we ever go back to a situation where we're all working sort of separately, things can get missed. This way, it doesn't get missed. It's automatically recorded.
And every agent will tell you, and again, going back to my own days, I said to myself, I'm thinking back on when did that happen? Oh yeah, it was I think it was in late April. And then you go in and bingo, there you see it, date and time stamp, so-and-so looked at the property, came back and made an offer. And I think that's invaluable from the agent's perspective.
I think it's a remarkable advantage that some agents are going to have with being able to demonstrate clearly and visually to a vendor the level of interest that they've had, the amount of offers that they've had, any conditions that they've had. And if we do, as you say, hit a harder market, those conversations are going to come. We're going to be talking about whether or not pricing is, you know, it is too ambitious, needs to be looked at. And if that old adage is true, that a house is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, what better demonstration can you get than of this dashboard, really, that vendors are going to be able to see?
One other comment I'd say to you too is that at the moment, the agent manually checks the documentation provided and uploaded by the agent, or not by the agent, apologies, by the buyer. But also we now have a new integration with Third Fort, which basically will carry out the AML checks. So that is now, we are now integrated with that. Other integrations that we have, we've integrated with Matterport, iSpy 360. We've integrated with Giraffe. So we've a load of we believe the future of tech. The problem is there's lots of tech out there which is really good, but and I'm not saying this about any particular tech, but it's quite dated, so it finds it hard to integrate with new. We believe the future is all about integrations, tech talking to each other. Each tech will have its own speciality and niche area. We believe we're we're experts in the offer management piece, but we believe that this is, you know, we all know there are pieces of technology out there which deal with from sale agreed to closing and the conveyancing aspect. And that whole area is going to change too. And that I believe ultimately in the future, what you're going to see is in a conditional sale, because you're already seeing merging between auctions and conditional sales now. It's that hybrid type scenario. But what you're going to see is contracts for sale available from the outset for a private treaty property. And you're already seeing this with the new laws coming in with the material upfront information. Yes, absolutely. And it's okay. The first phase, it's in 3 phases, but phase B and C will require more information up front. So I think that's ultimately what you're going to see. So from our perspective, this is just where we believe we have a product which is going with the momentum of the property transaction, but this will all be driven by the consumer.
Fantastic. Well, Philip, thank you so much for spending the time to sort of introduce your product to us. And yeah, we look forward to see it going from strength to strength, because this is the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, great, Dave. Lovely talking to you today.